When I saw that fat horse run up to my boy Despa, I couldn't help but just laugh at the exaggerated reactions and the Looney Tune level antics that went down. That is like the perfect horse for Despa, and I can't wait to see him ride into battle on that giant, luscious, fat steed. That was incredible. Though the star of this episode was definitely these underworld criminals who, just before even the action started between them, you knew they were going to be trouble. I truly thought that someone like Kingbo was probably going to be the one who'd be the most devastating, just because the way he asserted himself. It wasn't that type of arrogance where, sometimes you had those loudmouths of the group who they talk like they're the most high and mighty, most powerful person there, but you could tell that if this person beside them picked up a sword, they would kick their ass. No, he felt arrogant, but he felt like there's a level of fear that he radiates, so I believe that even if he wasn't the most powerful, the only way to take him down would be if they all kind of teamed up against him, or one wore him down. You had this one guy who, basically, I thought he was going to be a lot different of a character. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but the idea of him who's just kind of like a schemer who recognizes that he can't say or do the wrong thing. He's actually the reason why they didn't have an all-out brawl when they were traveling to take care of the king's body and everything like that. The fact that he very much understood where to do certain things. The fact that he handed the crown to Ouken at the end, and when he refused, that's the only time he put it on for himself. Out of everyone that we've seen, he's probably the most interesting on a personality level, given the way he understands who should be friends and who should be enemies, and where to, strike when he could. Because originally, okay, there's no way Ouken's going to be able to take down Kingbo. There's just no way. And even if he does put up a fight, maybe that way I can take a stab at him myself. And then to see the actual result of that battle, he pretty much immediately said, hey, you want the crown? No? Okay, I'll take it for myself. When it came to that fight, when you look at how it started, right? He sat on the throne, Kingbo popped up and threw him into a pillar. And I was like, okay, well, that's going to be interesting. Then he runs up and then he flees. And I was like, okay, so he's kind of like a coward character. Like, what's going on here? And then he freezes him, slits his wrists, slits his Achilles heels, and then watches him suffer after stabbing him in the back like a dozen or a couple of dozen times. That is without a doubt some of the most cheating OP things I have seen, but I love it for their characters. Often you have stories like this where the characters are morally righteous, there's knight codes and things like that. With what we've seen of these characters, anything and all bets should be off, the gloves shouldn't even be around. The fact that we had characters actively in their mind thinking that once one character is wore down, then they would take a stab at them. They are criminals, they are, they shouldn't be righteous, and everything about that brutality was the least knight and heroic thing I've seen in this show today. And the fact that there's almost like this tsundere gleam, this blushing at watching someone suffer. Ouken is insane, and we know Kingbo's not dead. Even before we saw his hand twitch after Bebin told the snakes to bury him, you know damn well that if you're putting that much emphasis on the body before basically you go into the big battle of the show, clearly the guy's coming back. But the fact that they took him out so easily for now, I'm interested. You don't give him an interesting emotional backstory with the father and everything like that, and then just make him seem like that much of a badass, even if he's arrogant, unless you're going to have him be more relevant. And I'm excited because every character in this show has been more than what at face value they've appeared to be. No idea what Ouken, this silver-haired knight, is going to be and who he is, but from eating rats to everything like that, he's a menace and insane, but holy shit, you need that to make us scared for the characters. We're coming off of Bojji with his new sword training and feeling like he's a badass who could take care of anything, and now seeing what they're truly up against, who the hell knows? This episode, the first 5 or 6 minutes was recap, which honestly, as much as I would have loved 5 or 6 minutes of just pure new content, I'm glad it wasn't half the episode, or that, they sacrifice an actual episode for a recap, so get it out of the way. And actually, I didn't find myself skipping through it. I thought it was kind of a nice reminder of how far the characters have come, without overly explaining too much. And then when that new opening kicked in, holy shit, I didn't think they'd be able to top or match the first opening just because I loved it so much, but I think they matched it one for one. It is energizing. It definitely gets your mind racing with the visuals. Last episode review or the one before, I was talking about my idea of what Miranjo is. Is she a victim? Is she a master manipulator? What's going on? And it definitely feels to me that the little girl that Daida was interacting with, who was being bullied by those voices in his head, I really do feel like there's a little girl who's trapped and there's almost like an evil presence who took control, similar to how the king took control over Daida's body, but obviously only time will tell. But it definitely gives me some excitement with some battles and things like that. But that opening, the new ending, absolutely fantastic. And of course, you knew with Suya we're going to pick some good openings and endings given the type of music production we've already experienced. But to just see them ride into this battle after getting a taste of what they're willing to do to each other, this is going to be dangerous. I do think Bojji will be able to hold up his own if he does end up fighting certain people, but it's hard to imagine where we go from here. Without having character deaths, I would be shocked, but you never quite know, right? The fact that you have the magic mirror just really wanting chaos, wanting to bring down this kingdom. And for what? What does she feel so betrayed by? Is it what, got teased in Daida's mind about what happened to her? Is it something else? Does she feel like she should have been queen alongside the king? The fact that she, went from literally wanting to help the king to then throwing him in a dungeon, does she know that he is the reason that her plans are starting to fall through and that he's been revealing information? There's so many different questions, but those are the types of questions that keep you, kind of re-energized for the second core of a 23-episode production. I mean, it's been no shock throughout these videos, and I gush about this show all the time on Twitter as well. It's one of my favorite shows of last year and one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. And it's so interesting to see how the production remains to have these Sakuga moments hidden in plain sight. Because often when you have those really good scenes where people clip it, they turn it into a GIF, or they post it on YouTube or Twitter as a video, those are the moments where it's like, oh man, look at that crazy action, I can't believe how well animated it is. But the thing about this show is that almost every scene has something that you typically don't get to experience in anime, because that type of refinement and that level of attention to detail, you just don't have enough time for the animators to continuously do that. And I suspect now that we are getting into a second core of a continuous 2-core production, not every episode is going to be able to be as refined as the first core. That is just basic anime production logic. However, every single scene, whether it's the way the bodies are continuing to move in these subtle ways, but they move more than your typical anime scene, the fact that there's that level of refinement is what makes it feel so full of personality. As if the characters move like real people should, from Kage's elongated, exaggerated reaction, Despa's insane facial reactions when it comes to his gushing of money or seeing his once proud horse turned into this blob of a Pokemon. It is amazing to see how it's not the high energy moments that are the most beautiful thing about this show. It's that the production as a whole is this careful masterpiece, and I'm very excited to see how it's going to look by the time we get to episode 23, because this was a production that Wit Studio put a lot of pre-production into. So I'm hoping that it carries through all the way to episode 23, as, you have shows airing this season like Tokyo 24th Ward, which before episode 1 even dropped, the chief animation director was saying that he's aboard a crashing ship because there's not enough staff to go around. Where you don't really feel that with something like Ranking of Kings, right? That's what makes this show so good, and if they needed to get our excitement even more through the roof, this episode did it, and I feel sorry for anyone who hasn't been checking this show out, because this is a gem from last year and clearly going to be a gem of this year as well. Thoughts and feelings, theories if you have any, let me know down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.